Welcome to Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs, the podcast that gives you an unfiltered, behind-the-scenes look at what it's really like being a woman in the middle who's over 50 and following her entrepreneurial dreams. Grab a superhero cape, girlfriend, because you deserve one. I'm your host, Master Certified Life Coach and Midlife Mentor, Suzy Rosenstein, and I am excited to inspire you with interviews that feature all of this midlife amazingness. Let's go. Hey there, welcome back to the show. We have another really exciting interview ahead of us about why you should be transparent about your actual age on LinkedIn and more. Today, you're going to be meeting Karen Yankovich, a woman in the middle entrepreneur who has a marketing consulting company focusing on supporting women to grow their businesses with LinkedIn and PR strategy. And she's also the host of Good Girls Get Rich podcast. So excited to talk to you, Karen. Thanks so much for joining us today.
I am so happy to be here, Suzy. Thanks for having me.
So much fun. And we just discovered in our little pre-conversation that you are actually located not too far from where I grew up. So that's always fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I know we're going to have a really great conversation about your midlife entrepreneur story. We're going to be talking about your business and what's going really well, and also what midlife issues might be getting in your way to some extent and are challenging for you in your life as well as being a business owner. So let's get started with my favorite way to start is to talk about how old you are, your entrepreneurial journey, and of course, how you help the women. Tell us everything.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm 62. And I actually did, for my podcast, I had somebody that worked for me, interview me for my 60th birthday. I'm like, I got to lean into this, so
I love it.
Interview me. Like I was the interviewee instead of the interviewer for my podcast for my 60th birthday.
So great.
Because, it is what it is, right? It is what it is. So, it's so interesting when you ask about my entrepreneurial journey, because honestly, it started when I was like born, I feel like, I was the kid that was like creating carnivals and having shows and inviting the neighbors and charging them $1 or whatever. Right. So, like, I think you're kind of like born with that spirit, but of course I didn't know that was okay. Once I got married and had kids, I felt like I needed to, contribute. And then especially when I initially, while I was still married, I was working at a company. And then I just like, the commute was just too much when I have 4 kids. So when I had my third son, I'm like, all right, I need to take some time off. And my husband at the time was okay with that. And I did. And within like 3 days, I feel like I got a call from my boss. I used to work with a phone company and they were starting this new thing where they were going to have agents. And there was somebody that they knew that was starting an agency. And she asked me if I wanted an introduction, would I be interested in working for them? And I was like, sure. If I could make my own hours, it was like a kind of a straight commission thing. So I figured I'd do it because it gave me something to do. And honestly, that was probably my first experience into real entrepreneurism, because even though I worked for a company, it was straight commission. So my boss and I basically ran this division. And then he eventually retired and I ran the division. And then I went to the phone company and got my own contract and then started my own company to do this and ran that company for a bunch of years. But it was interesting because when you're running a company as the owner of a company, you are the owner of the company, and you had to pick out office space. You have people working for you. They need health benefits. You got to pick out coffee tables and conference tables, and none of those things are my strength, right? Like I don't want to do any of that stuff. So we ultimately ended up selling that company, and I went back out because I love marketing and sales, right? And even though it was a marketing and sales company, I didn't want the responsibility of being the owner of this company that was just growing and growing. And I was doing all these things I didn't want to do. So I just took some clients on as a consultant. I kicked some of the clients with me as a consultant. And that's kind of when this journey started, even though it was definitely a roller coaster. It's changed a lot, because I was in telecom. My first business was telecom consulting, but because I was always in the sales end of it, I loved the sales piece of it. But during this journey, I also got divorced. So now I was a single mom. I now had 4 kids and I needed to keep the roof over their heads. So one of my clients hired me part-time initially, became full-time. And then it was the kind of job that allowed me, I had so much time off and so much free time that allowed me to continue to run my consulting business on the side. So I shifted to kind of like more online marketing as that became a thing. And then eventually, I just got so busy. I had to make a choice. Was I going to grow my business or was I going to stay employed? And I took the leap about 10 years ago and never looked back, but it was,
Right.
definitely a roller coaster. Since in those 10 years, I've been running the same kind of company, generally, I started doing marketing in general, like online marketing. And then as soon as you learn about online marketing, you realize one of the things I learned very early on was the more you niche, frankly, the easier it is because you don't have to know a million things. So instead of me needing to know all the things that were going on with Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, I started to niche in on LinkedIn because that was the most like what I did when I was before. Like it was all relationship based marketing. It's timeless marketing skills, right? Who do you need to have on your calendar? Not how do you get eyeballs on your content, right? So I started to niche down on LinkedIn. I had some shiny object syndromes where I did some work with a partner for a while and then we disbanded that. And now where I've landed with all of this is really diving to when I started the podcast, Good Girls Get Rich, which really means when you lean into what you're good at, that's where the abundance comes in your life. And so many women struggle with that. We think if we're good at it, we shouldn't get paid for it. That it should be hard. So when I started the podcast, it started to have me start to lean more into just really supporting women in general. So now I founded a program. I have a suite of programs in the She's Linked Up family where we help women really create a strong personal brand. And it's really about who do you want to have on your calendar, right? It's the people in your life that make the difference with how successful you are, not how many eyeballs are on your content. It's who's on your calendar. And we really help them focus too on having the confidence. I like to refer to it as like flipping the funnel. Like stop worrying about your $27 things and your $7 things and tell me what you can do for me if I've got $10,000 in my hand, and really having the confidence to go after the bigger opportunities. And a lot of that comes from the people that you surround yourself with, right? So that kind of brings us to today.
Well, I love the way you described how LinkedIn is similar and different. There are relationship stuff is part of all kinds of marketing, but in LinkedIn, it's different. And, it's like when people talk about Pinterest. Pinterest is not the same as Facebook or Instagram. And LinkedIn is different. And thank you for sharing that. And I love how you leaned into it first because it made sense because it was the most similar to what you'd been doing. But then it also seems like it capitalized on your gifts and your success.
Well, and you know what else, Suzy? Like when I was teaching social media in general, I had a social media agency. If somebody needed a speaker for social media, my name would get thrown in the hat with 100 other people. Now, if there's a women's conference and they need a speaker on LinkedIn, 100 people say, call Karen, right? So the more you niche, the more you get known for what you do. And you're kind of like rising above the crowd instead of being one of many. Now, it's more of a magnetic strategy than a, pushing and chasing strategy.
Wow. What's your favorite thing about what you do? Because you have so much energy. You're so positive. You have so many smiles. Like it's clear that you're in your zone. So what is your zone of genius?
You know what I love more than anything is, and this is just going to sound so corny, but it's watching the women I work with achieve their goals. It is just, it's like I want to put their pictures on my refrigerator, like your kids' report cards. I just spent a weekend, just before we recorded this, a student of mine opened a retreat center and she built a labyrinth on the retreat center. And if you guys check it out, it's called the Adirondack Labyrinth. Amazing. She's also a mentor of mine too. We mentor each other, but we helped her create a really strong presence on LinkedIn. She reached out to one of the foremost labyrinth builders in the world when she was doing this. And she reached out to him on LinkedIn and said, hey, I've got this thing. I need help. Are you interested? If she did that from a profile with dust bunnies or without the confidence that she deserves to be peers with the most influential people in the world, he wouldn't have even responded to her, but he responded to her. And fast forward 18 months later, I just spent the weekend with him. He came in from Ireland and her. This labyrinth is a thing. I don't do what I do so people can have labyrinths. I do what I do so people have the confidence to reach out to the smartest people in the world to help them achieve their goals. And that happens on LinkedIn.
That is so good. Now tell me about this age business and why you feel very strongly that you should be authentic and transparent about your actual age. Tell us more.
Well, first of all, if you're going to put listen, LinkedIn should not be your resume. Your resume is all about who you used to be. I want you on LinkedIn to position yourself for the person you're becoming, right? Stepping into the future, kind of dressing for the job you want. But at the same time, there's a resume-ish component of this, right? Here's where I worked. Here's what I did. I mean, you'd have to leave off years of this. But here's the thing, there's probably people that knew you then that might be a good connection for you. And here's the, we don't, like 25 years ago, you could hide your age. You could be 50 and tell everybody you were 40. But the minute you tell everybody you're 40 today, somebody's going to post and tag you in their 50th reunion pictures on Facebook. Do you know what I mean? And everybody knows you graduated college, high school, 50, 40, 30 years ago, right? So I really think there's so much fake influencer stuff going on out there that the more you can be authentic, the more you're going to stand out and get the right business. And the older you are, the more experience you have. Like, I don't, there's people that want to hire a cute little 25-year-old blonde. I'm not that person. I've probably never been that person. I've never been blonde, right? So there's probably people that want that, but people hire me because I get them results. So I'm not knocking that. Like, it's not about that at all. It's about leaning into the experience that you have, owning the experience you have, showcasing the experience you have, and just not worrying about the age number. And if somebody thinks that if it puts somebody off, let them go. There's plenty of people that need you. Don't worry about the people that are put off by that. Just focus on the opportunities that are there for you.
I love that. I turned 60 last week, and
happy birthday.
And thank you. And oh my gosh, I did so much. And you just made me smile so much when you had somebody interview you. I reached out to 3 women who I graduated with in 1981, and I hadn't talked to them in years. And we had a fun panel discussion about our memories and about what it was like growing up in that town. It was so much fun. And of course, everybody's had a lot of crap. And they're very excited about the future. It was a delight to talk to them again.
That's so much fun. I'm going to look for that.
Oh, so good. Yeah. Celebrating all over the place. Okay. Now, speaking of what's going on with us in other parts of our lives, I really am fascinated with women managing midlife challenges. So tell us a little bit about what it's like for you, what midlife challenges are going on, and how are they getting in the way of you running your business?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I do my best to take care of myself. I can certainly do a better job at it because growing older ain't for sissies. That is not just a meme. That's for real. Right. True. So, I work. I mean, I'm not going to say I work really hard, but I'm committed to aging gracefully and aging healthy, not trying to fix things that are wrong with me, but to avoid having things wrong with me. Right. So I work pretty hard to stay healthy because it's important. And, my business really depends on my brain being sharp too. So I have to really keep that in mind as I create my life. And I also have to recognize that there's just things that I am just physically not the same person at 8 p.m. that I am at 8 a.m. Do you know what I mean? You want to talk to me and you want the best strategy, you want that 8 a.m. slot. Sometimes I'll get talked into doing an 8 p.m. slot with somebody from like the West Coast, and I do my best, but I'm not, so I try to work within when I know I'm going to have the most energy and the clearest head and work within those parameters. I will tell you that I'm at the age now where my kids are starting to have kids, which is amazing. And my mother-in-law used to watch my kids a lot when they were little. And I think about this woman all the time. She's gone now, but I think about her all the time. Like, holy moly, they had no idea how hard this was. I love them to death, but I work out more now that I need to get up and down off the floor than I did 10 years ago. Because, I didn't have the need to get up and down off the floor that I do now. I want to sit on the floor and play with my grandkids. But here's the thing so the health thing is just a reality, right? Yeah. We can't pretend it's not. And at the same time, what I love about being an entrepreneur in midlife is that I've gotten to be able to create the business around the life that I want. The reason I started this business the way it is now is because my mother-in-law spent so much time with my kids, and I want to be able to do that for my grandkids. Right. So well before I had any grandkids, that was my vision for this business. I wanted to have a flexible schedule. And, it's funny. My oldest granddaughter is 6. And when my son first started having, he had the first 2 kids. I have 5 grandkids now. And, they both work. So I would babysit every now and then. And then they had the second kid and then COVID hit. So they weren't seeing anybody, right? Never mind. And I don't live all that close to them. And then my daughter had a baby. So all of a sudden in like 1 week, my son called me and he's like, listen, can you come up 2 days a week and stay with the girls? And my daughter called me and said, can you stay with the baby 2 days a week? He was a preemie. And I was like, no, like, no, I can't. I want to, but I can't do all of this because I have a business and I have a mentor, and it's Christine Powers who runs the Adirondack Labyrinth, because I was working with her at the time. She had such good advice for me. And if there's anything you take from this show, you're going to want to write this down. She said to me, you need to show up for your kids with the energy of the matriarch, not the energy of the nana. And I was like, amen. Right. So shifting how I showed up, like, of course I want to spend time with my grandchildren. I want to build relationships with them, and I'm not the nanny. Right. So so I worked it out, and I did 1 day here, 1 day there, and shifted things around. And I'm so grateful that I built a business that allowed me to do that in the first place. But then I got a call from one of my other sons who now has a daughter, who's like, hey, can you take the baby 1 day a week? And I'm like, sure. And he's like, yeah, because then maybe I can go play like disc golf. And I'm like, whoa, if I'm at your house on Friday, I'm working on Saturday, so like, yeah, I'm happy to do it. And I love her, and I want to bring her over anytime. And she has joined many a Zoom call for me, with me. But I really had to create boundaries around the fact that I want to do this, but I'm also running a business, and I have to honor both.
Yes, 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 you do. And I see from your notes, you also have parents who are in their 80s. So how is that affecting this stuff?
Oh, well, that's a challenge. That's a challenge because, and listen, I really do try to have empathy, or whatever the word is. I really try to understand. I can't imagine what it's like to not be able to do things that you used to be able to do. And I know a little bit about what that's like, right? Because I can't do all the things I used to be able to do, even at my age now. And they are not really open to understanding that there's things that they can't do anymore. And I'm a little bit of a brat. I try to be supportive of them, and I do show up and help them a lot. But, my mom's line is, I'm not there yet. All right, you're not there yet. Is a plane going to fly over my house with a banner that tells me you're there? Like, how will I know when you're there? Like, what do I do? What's the sign? Because of course she's there. Like, she needs help. And I actually try to take from that how I want to show up for my kids as I grow older. Right. And understand that I want to be as independent as I possibly can be, but also that I want to trust them to support me when they think I need support. Right. So, I think, so it's a tricky dance, how about I pick you up? No, we're fine driving. No, you're not fine driving. No. So it's a tricky dance with them, but I'm lucky to have them. My dad's 88. My mom's 87. So I'm lucky to have them, and they're both extremely healthy for 87 and 88. So I just try to be grateful and let they listen. My sister and I get the brunt because we're their kids. Our kids, their grandkids, right? They're like the sun rises and sets on them, but their great grandkids, that's like a new, and how they understand how lucky they are to have relationships with their great grandkids, right? So it's a lot of fun to have all the generations, and there's also a lot of drama and emotion and challenge, but one day at a time.
Yeah, that's reality. Like, that is what's really going on. And women take the brunt of it too, because of the roles so many women play in the family and with that sense of responsibility. So what have you noticed about being an older woman in terms of, being at this age and stage, and how it is affecting you being an entrepreneur? So running your own business, like, I know it's not for the faint of heart. You talked a little bit about energy, which is a lot of women are talking about energy. What have you noticed?
Here's the thing. My family, I have a family of teachers. So they all retire with pensions and lifetime of health benefits. I don't think any of them understand what I do. In fact, I know that I understand what I do. So I don't have a pension. I have to pay the Affordable Care Act for health benefits, right? So, and it's an insane amount of money for not great care, so I never in my life thought I'd be counting the days till I'm old enough to be on Medicare, but I truly am. I mean, it is a thing. it's a thing to be an entrepreneur. And, my partner's retired. So he's on Medicare. So I can't be on his benefits. So, there's things that I think, but here's the thing. And this is really important, I think, for entrepreneurs. And I needed to be told this. I did not come to this naturally. And I don't think a lot of women do. I may not have a pension, but my business is an asset.
Right.
So I actually have no plans of retiring anytime soon, but I hired a business coach and said, if I wanted to sell this business in 5 years or 10 years or 3 years, what should I be doing today? Because as a coach, there's nothing to sell, right? But as the CEO, you may actually have a valuable asset. And so I really shifted my thinking around that. I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. I have no plans to go anywhere, but I think differently how I run my business now, because I look at it more from the CEO perspective than as somebody that just has a practice. Because one day, if you just have a practice, one day when you're not practicing anymore, you have no money. I mean, right? Like it just is, right? So I shifted my thoughts to what would the CEO do that was building a sellable asset as opposed to just having clients.
Yes, I'm really glad you brought that up. And I can see how that is a shift. And why would you be thinking about that? Most of us who have come to be entrepreneurs, even if we've been entrepreneurial, so many of us didn't go to business school. We didn't have the kind of training where we may have gotten an alert about something like that. So we've been learning on the job and surrounding ourselves, hopefully, with bright people and getting help and getting coaching and getting support. But yeah, it was a memo that so many of us don't think about. And you got the memo. It's great.
Yeah, it is true. And, I had to look long and hard for somebody that understood the online business model to do that, because I had an accountant at one point that would look at things like my CRM. I use Entreport. It would look at that and go, what's $300 you're spending a month? And never really understood it. And he was not the right accountant for me. So I really had to look long and hard for somebody. I had clients that were in the business valuation business, and I didn't use them because they didn't understand the online business model. So I had to look long and hard for somebody that understood the model and could help me create a business, a valuable asset around an online business model. I mean, COVID helped because COVID made people understand the value of virtual businesses. But, there's not a lot of people out there doing that yet. So I had to look long and hard. And in fact, I interviewed somebody for my podcast, that was actually a student of mine. And that's her business now, is helping women entrepreneurs understand that there are people that, and certainly I've now that, how when you start looking, you want to buy a green car, all you see on the road, then it's green cars. Well, now I've been seeing a lot more about these things. And, I see women that start and sell businesses and start and sell businesses. And that's a skill that we can be building as entrepreneurs that's in place of the pensions we don't have.
Yes, great information. And I love that you've gotten such clarity on that. So what do you want next in your business? More of that?
You know what I want? What I want more of next in my business is I'm working. It is a little bit more of that, but it's more from the perspective of I want my business to run without as much input from me. I love being in my business. I am not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And if I need to step away, like I had some stuff come up at the end of 2022 into 2023 that really took me away from my business for a while. And my business took a hit. And I don't want that to be the case. I was stressed about the things I needed to do because I didn't have the right team in place to support me when I couldn't be there. So really for me, the next year or two is really going to be about having a strong team. Not that they're going to replace me, but that if I need to step away, I can. And, things like I'm on a vacation in the middle of August and I have my team ready to run the calls that I normally run for my program and things like that. So I can truly have a week off, which doesn't happen a lot as an entrepreneur.
Right.
So I just want to build more of that in. It's not that I'm planning on going anywhere, but if there is an emergency, if I have an emergency, if I'm sick for a week or a month, my business will continue to run. So I think that, as women, it's not as natural to us to ask for help. And I think that it's not even just in my life. I mean, even having somebody to help me around the house, right? To have somebody that cleans your bathrooms in your kitchen, that helps me as an entrepreneur, right? So
absolutely,
really embracing having a life that allows me to step out of it and it still runs without me.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. And I know in your notes, you mentioned the importance of batching and boundaries helping you the most. Tell me a little bit about how you use that.
The boundaries is like that, what I talked about with my kids earlier, right? Like I really have to be clear on the boundaries. And I want to spend time with my grandchildren. So keep asking me, but I'm going to say no sometime because there are times it just doesn't work. Right. So, and those boundaries are also important with other people in your life. Like, for example, my parents, they had a place in Florida and they kind of got stuck down there during COVID. So they sold it. They just literally put a for sale sign on the place, in like October, and it was sold like in 3 days. And my sister works in a school. They called me up and said, your sister has a job. We need you to go down there and clean out the house. And so I was like, my sister has like, what do I have? I don't have a job. Do you know what I mean? Like, so they don't get it. They don't get it.
Right.
So there are times where like literally I would feel like I have to put a sign on my front door. And it's not so much where I live now, but where I am recording something. You cannot come in. Do you know what I mean? Or I am working. You can't just call me 10 times in the middle of the day. I can't drop everything. I remember one time my dad was in one place and he forgot something and he asked me to go drive to another house and drive it to him. I was like, it's a Tuesday. I have a full day. No, I can't do that. Right. So
Yeah.
I want to be able to help him, but I have to have boundaries around all of that.
Yeah.
What was the other question? I don't remember the other.
Batching. Let me hear how you do batching.
Well, batching helps me with what I said earlier, which is what I'm moving towards, which is not necessarily needing to be in my business. We talked, I think before we got on this call, a little bit about our respective podcasts and how, sometimes you got to jump in a closet, close the door and shove some pillows under it to get a call in if you've got a lot of stuff going on. Batching helps me eliminate the need to do that. I want to be I don't like to be months ahead of my podcast, but I do like to be weeks ahead so that I'm not stressing over, I got to get a podcast out. And, when you start looking at things like that, like almost everything in your business can be scheduled, like almost everything. So, take advantage of that. Take advantage of that. And, if you've got for example, if you've got a podcast or a YouTube channel or weekly lives that you do, if you've got a schedule for that, then you know what you're going to be talking about in 2 weeks. Schedule content around that now, so that you can, if something comes up, you can just let it ride and schedule those emails to go out as well, right? Like get ahead of it. There's almost no excuse right now to forget to do something because we can be ahead of it. And once we are, it's so much easier. And listen, I can get caught up in scatterbrained and shiny object syndrome, just like the next person. It almost allows me to do that because I'm ahead, right? So if I decide, I'm going to take the job and go to the beach because the sun is out, I can because my podcasts are already recorded and I've got things already scheduled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so good. I struggle with batching my original podcast, Women in the Middle. But this podcast, I'm way ahead. So I think it's because I am much more experienced now after 6 years of podcasting. But when I started the other one, it just became challenging. So that's definitely something I relate to. Well, how can people best get in touch with you?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I really want everyone listening to understand that regardless of how comfortable you are using LinkedIn, and we didn't even really talk about why PR, but 2 seconds on that.
Sure.
As you're building up your personal brand, if you're the one quoted in the newspapers and the magazines and interviewed on podcasts, it helps you with that credibility. Do you remember I said flip the funnel, look for those 10K offers, not the $10 offers, right? The PR helps you with that. So as you're building relationships on LinkedIn with the people that are the smartest people in the world on Labyrinths or the podcast hosts that you would love to be interviewed on, you want to do this from a position of strength. And if you have a great LinkedIn presence and strategy, that's the place to do it. All these other platforms out there, which have their own place, but they don't have that same strength. You don't have the profile doing the heavy lifting, right? But so many people are so worried about what to do on LinkedIn. There's a lot of spam on LinkedIn. I don't want to spam people. I don't know what to do. So first and foremost, connect with me on LinkedIn because I would love to be connected to you. Tell me that you heard this show and tell me what you thought. Write a LinkedIn recommendation for Suzy for having this great show. For me, if you think this was a great guest, right? And this is how relationships are built, right? Do the kinds of things that you would do for your friends and the people that you really want to be a part of your life. This is how you build those deep relationships. And if you're not sure how to get started with this whole process, we've just created a quiz called What's Your LinkedIn Success Style that will help you understand the strategies that you may want to focus on because there's not one size fits all with LinkedIn strategy. Some people are more comfortable building relationships. Some people are more comfortable being analytical, right? So depending on your style, we've got some great strategies for you. So you can go get the quiz at linkedinquiz.com. Just go to linkedinquiz.com. You can take the quiz. You'll get a bunch of emails. You'll get to experience a little bit of my crazy right brain, left brain. Not only do you get emails with strategies, but we've got some right brain things incorporated too. Some fun. There's like a morning visualization for each style. There's some really fun things that are completely free with this quiz, because I just want people to really feel confident and start using LinkedIn as the hub of their relationships. So I'm at Karen Yankovich absolutely everywhere across social media. So you can find me at all those places. Take the quiz. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know what you think about the style. Do you think it aligns with what you think your style is? And, let's start building those deeper relationships. Let it start with Suzy and I.
Karen, that is so good. Anybody can do what you just suggested.
Yeah.
But when you don't know how to get started, it does seem overwhelming,
right.
And you don't want to look stupid professionally by doing something dumb. None of us want to do something dumb.
The more authentic you are, honestly, who cares what people think, right? But the more authentic you are as you do this, the easier it is. And I want there to be ease in this. I want there to be ease and freedom in your life as you build out your next chapter. And this is where it happens. This is timeless marketing. This doesn't go away no matter what happens with the algorithm. The relationships you build here do not go away.
Such great perspective, Karen. Thank you so much. I really love the way that you shared perspective about LinkedIn and how it can not just fit into your business, but really lead your business. And my experience is so many people aren't using it, including me, to the extent that we could be using it. It's been on my radar, but I'm taking that quiz.
Okay.
Really.
I want to know what style type you are. So let us know when this podcast comes out, what your style type is.
Oh, definitely. I love what you're doing. You're amazing. I love your energy. And thank you so much for being just so candid about what really is going on with the grandkids and your parents. Like, it's challenging. And as you said, and I agree, midlife is not for the faint of heart.
But here's the thing too, Suzy, I'm also so blessed to have all these people in my life. So while it's a little bit of a juggling act sometimes, I do not want to overlook the fact that I am so blessed to have these billions of family members around me that are pulling at me in every direction.
So good. Gratitude for the win. Thank you so much, Karen. All right. That is it for now. If you're listening and loving what you hear, please like and subscribe. Reviews are great too and much appreciated. And if you're a woman in the middle who's 50 or over and an entrepreneur and would also like to come on the show, please go to www.midlifeinterviews.com and fill out an application. We'd love to have you on to share your story. Thanks so much for listening. It's never too late for you to put yourself on your agenda. I'm Suzy Rosenstein, and I'll talk to you again soon. Now, real quick before we say goodbye, if you are connecting with this show, I'd love to invite you to a happiness breakthrough coaching session. It's my laser-focused coaching call that will help you get clear about what's getting in your way as a woman in the middle entrepreneur and confident about your next steps to more happiness in your next chapter. Head over to www.nextchapterbreakthrough.com. Talk to you soon.